I was at the Jaipur Lit Fest. So we had, I bumped into him and we had breakfast together. So it was very heartbreaking actually to hear about him.
Yeah, it was very, I mean, he was so healthy and
Yes, and very conscious about,
yes,
yeah, really sad to hear that. But
like
he was
in
speaking
no
very
time.
fondly of Danish and he was speaking very fondly of them. So, but lovely to meet you. You
Yeah,
raised
same
wonderful
here.
kids. So well done.
Thank you.
Kubra's also out with a new book, I believe, right? I saw some posts on HarperCollins.
Yes.
Very great. Please congratulate her. I'll message her as well.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. To start with, may I invite Dr. Shalini Yadav, the event coordinator of this month and PRO of Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, to welcome respected guest authors and the today's chairperson, Professor G.A. Ghanshyam, sir. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. A very good evening to one and all present here. We have with us today glorious, energetic and award-winning authors as guest of the day. Meghna Pant ma'am, Milan Vora ma'am. I think she will be joining soon. Yasmin Said ma'am, Shalini Malik ma'am on the platform of iSPELL India. Namaskar ma'am, welcome on the platform. I gleefully welcome you all and feel highly privileged and excited to have you all here on the platform of iSPELL India for the deliberation today. And I welcome the founder and general secretary, the chairperson of the day, Professor G.A. Ghanshyam, sir. And I welcome President Professor Anupma Vora and all other dignitaries and executive members, officials from forums, distinguished academicians, enthusiastic scholars, and devoted iSPELlians. Before initiating the event, I would like to brief little about iSPELL India for our respected guest authors and assembly of august audience. When COVID-19 pandemic was terrifying and attacking the humanity, holding its in its tight clasp, keeping everyone sealed within the four-wall peripheries, Professor Ghanshyam visualized and intended and accomplished the objective, connecting all the like-minded people on this platform, forming this society named Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature. And we call it iSPELL India now. iSPELL India works with the motto facilitate to elevate and organizes Sunday Sahityik Satsang. We call it SSS. Every Sunday to share and impart expertise of renowned academicians, its members, and has proudly completed 101 Sunday shows in the gracious presence of award-winning authors, including Kiran Manral ma'am, Rochelle Potkar ma'am, Arundhati Subramanyam ma'am, and many of committed iSPELlians might already know about it, that iSPELL has also hoisted its flag at more than 18 countries by organizing 2 international poetic congregations of well-regarded international poets, enlivening sensibility and spreading a message of brotherhood, peace, and harmony all over the world. Moreover, iSPELL, standing tall and strong for the literary world to acknowledge its worth, keeping an all-encompassing approach and vision at core, works to assist all and one in literary fraternity, focusing more on the hidden talent to bring forth and for the showcase of their caliber, providing them a platform. Though the motto is to reach the unreached, listening to the unexpressed, and uplifting the less elevated, we give the chance or we request the highly elevated people also to come on the platform and share their expertise with others. So we can say that the objective from past 2 years of iSPELL journey till date has been to elevate each and everyone, whoever is connected with literature and language. Thus, in this month of August, as an iSPELlian and the event coordinator of the month, I have labored to bring worthy creative souls on the board, bringing dignified writers and poets to reveal their own writing approaches and to guide with their experiences. Therefore, today we have with us celebrated and much appreciated women authors, those who are symbol of women empowerment, who have gained applause and accolades for their writings and are going to share a few of their experiences with us about the writing journey. So I welcome you all here again on the board. Without much delay, let me take this honor of introducing our guest authors to the audience one by one. So let me introduce the Mega Deva Meghna Pant ma'am to you all at first. Meghna Pant is a multiple award-winning and best-selling author, screenwriter, journalist, and a speaker. Reading the bio note of Meghna ma'am is really a Herculean task, or I can say that it is a really overwhelming feeling that so much ma'am has achieved till now. Recognized as one of the India's best writer by multiple national and international publications, Pant has published 8 books to critical and commercial acclaim till now. These books include Boys Don't Cry, the latest one with Penguin Random House, The Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad, Good News, How to Get Published in India, Feminist Rani, The Trouble with Women, Happy Birthday, and One and a Half Wife. Several of her books are under screen adaptation, including Boys Don't Cry and The Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad, Good News, as well as a few other screenplays that she has written. Pant has been facilitated with various honors and shortlisted for distinguished contribution to literature, gender issues, and journalism, including the Bharat Nirman Award, Ladli Media Award, FICCI Young Achievers Award, the Lifestyle Journalist Women Achievers Award, Font South Asia Short Story Awards, Muse India Young Writers Award, Amazon Breakthrough Novel Awards, Frank O'Connor International Awards, and many more. Her short stories have been published in over a dozen international literary magazines, including Avatar Review, Safari, Eclectica, Indian Quarterly, and there are so many to name. Ma'am's stories also have been published in many anthologies, short stories. And her story was Boom Thing was critically praised by Hindu, Telegraph, Business Standard, and Hindustan Times. She has written over 100 articles for international and national media houses like the Times of India, the Times of India, Hindustan Times, DNA, Midday, The Asian Age, Mumbai Mirror, Tehelka, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Verve, Cosmopolitan, Little India, South Asian Times, Dainik Bhaskar, The Huffington Post, and the First Post, and many more. Pant is a true feminist and advocates gender equality. She curates a popular monthly panel discussion on feminism in Mumbai called Feminist Rani, and those all interviews she has got published in the book form also. She is the boss, and whatever interviews she has taken on an online show, like she is the boss, first lady, and Get Real at the People's TV. She has spoken out against domestic violence in her TEDx talks. Pant is also known for having abridged the world's longest epic, the Mahabharata, into 100 tweets that the Guardian UK quoted as wonderfully descriptive and paced work. Pant ma'am has been invited as a speaker for many of the national literary festivals and conferences, including TEDx, Jaipur Literature Festival, Time Lit Fest, and Litomania, Odisha Literary Festival, Hyderabad Literary Festival, Dehradun, Kathak, and we are not so. There is a big list to name these all literary fest wherever in India they are organized. She is a regular panelist at prime time news channels like Times Now, NDTV, CNN, IBN, and India Today TV, and international channels like DW News, Germany, and CGTN, China. She also conducts motivational talks for underprivileged girls. She has been associated with the Avanti Young Women Leaders Program, the Blue Ribbon Movement, Kehkasha 2017, Srajna She Heroes, and served as a mentor for She Heroes and Vital Voices, which is a women empowering initiative by Hillary Clinton. So a hearty welcome to you, ma'am, at the platform of iSPELL India. We are honored and delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and let me introduce Milan ma'am. Pramod sir, Milan ma'am is there?
Yes.
Yes, she's there.
Okay. Now let me introduce our next author on the board, the witty and gracious Milan Vora ma'am. Milan Vora ma'am juggles writing fiction both in the long and short format, campaigns, plays and columns for the print media. She has written 5 books, The Love Ashna with Harlequin, which made her the first Indian Mills and Boons author. TikTok We Are 30, and which is going to be soon seen on the screen. Our song, the latest book of her with HarperCollins. Head Over Heels, Mate, States, and Double Takes, a collection of contemporary short stories about first love and made in India, a musical comedy. Her short stories have found home in anthologies by Penguin, HarperCollins, Acha Galata, Unison India, and among others. Milan has written open edition, opposite the editorial pages, OPD pieces, and short fiction for Huffington Post, Vogue, The Hindu, Man's World, Cosmopolitan, Ishi magazine, to name a few. Milan is also a TEDx speaker and an award-winning advertising professional. Welcome you, Milan ma'am, on the platform of iSPELL India. Hope you are a little better now. I have troubled you a lot.
Hi, Shalini. Yes, I'm down with COVID, which is quite a bummer, but happy to be here, and thanks for having me here. Hi, Yasmin. Hi, Shalini and Shalini. Hi, Meghna. Good to see you all again.
Hi.
Yeah.
Welcome, ma'am. Now, I would like to introduce our next guest author, Yasmin ma'am. Yasmin Sayed is an author, counselor, and life purpose coach. She is a metaphor for life and an engineer in matters of the heart. She connects with people through a transmittable smile, contagious smile, what ma'am says, and candid care. She is an undergraduate and she believes, she is not an undergraduate in any way. She believes that life has taught her more than academics. Yasmin says, I am a graduate from the School of Life. She spent 30 years of her professional career in the retail and entertainment industry. She carried every professional role successfully with grace and poise. She is the mother of 2 popular celebrities, Kubra Said and Danesh Said. As a single parent, Yasmin ma'am has raised her kids and managed their professional careers for almost a decade, which coined the word momager. Yasmin has appeared in commercial advertisements, short films, and web series. Yasmin has a strong, collaborative, people-focused leadership quality, and in her life's journey, she has brought a positive transformation in thousands of lives, and she's still doing the same. She believes that having a sense of purpose is essential to lead a meaningful and peaceful life, irrespective of age or socio-economic status. Welcome you on the board, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Shalini, and I'm so
really honored to have you all here.
Yeah, I'm so privileged to be a part of this iSPELL India and being amongst the real big authors. And I think I'm still baby steps, but one step at a time.
You're doing great, ma'am, already. Okay, without much delay, let me introduce our next guest speaker, Shalini Malik, ma'am. Shalini Malik, ma'am, is a medical practitioner. And at the same time, she is a writer with a diverse portfolio spanning fiction, non-fiction, and poetry. She is the author of the book Stars from the Borderless Sea. She was selected as Juggernaut Selects author for her e-single, Happily Divorced. She was also one of the winners of She Short Story Contest. She has published 2 short stories, each in the anthology Sharing Lipstick and Women, Mutiny. One of her short stories was selected for publication in the anthology Everything Changed After That, which was unveiled at the Ananke Women in Literature Festival in 2021. She was invited as a speaker at the Ananke Women in Literature Festival 2022 and a judge for Wish For You Talent Contest organized by Smile Foundation. Her works on many reputed platforms like Ishi Magazine, Women's Web, Incredible Women of India has been well received. She was awarded the Orange Flower Award, and she was also writing on LGBTQ issues. Medical humanities is an area in which she has a keen interest, and her poetry has been published in reputed journals across the world. She is a copy editor and on the review board of the journal Research and Humanities in Medical Education also. I welcome you, Shalini ma'am, and I welcome you all here again, and congratulate all of you for your recent books, Boys Don't Cry, and our song Stars from the Borderless Sea and Manan. All 4 books, the latest ones.
Thank you, Shalini. It is an honor to be here with stalwarts in writing and in life. I hope that I will take away a lot from this session and learn a lot from this session. Thank you for having me here.
That's what I was saying, that in iSPELL we like to make a balance in that way, that means highly elevated and less elevated all should be coming together, and learning and unlearning should be done there, and relearning, we can say. Now let's start the discussion. I have not exactly a discussion. I have few questions to ask, and I would request audience also to frame some questions if they have in their mind to ask to the authors, and write in the chat box. We would be taking those questions later. So initiating the discourse, my first question to all of you is, like, you all are from different professions. Like Meghna ma'am, earlier she was journalist and TV anchor, then turned to the writer. Yasmin ma'am was also in retail and entertainment business, and Shalini ma'am was a medical. She is still you are still a medical practitioner, and Milan ma'am also did a job earlier. So how do you describe your journey as a writer, or your this avatar as author, shifting from one profession to another, and what clicked in your mind, or what were the turning points or the milestones to be inclined towards writing or choose the profession of writing? So
Who's your question to first, Shalini?
yeah, we can start from okay, Meghna ma'am se start karte hain. Let's start from Meghna ma'am.
Meghna's dropped, I think.
Oh, then let's start from Milan ma'am. If you're okay, ma'am. Otherwise,
Yeah, sure, no worries. So your question is, could you just rephrase that again very quickly?
okay, my question is that you all have shifted from one profession to another of writing. So what means how you get this kick from inside that, okay, let's go towards writing, and we should start writing.
Okay, so first, Shalini, I'll correct you on the fact that you said I had a job. I don't. It's not past tense. I've been in advertising for more than 30 years, and I still am, and I'm a consultant with, some companies. I work with them on some of their global brands and campaigns, and I still continue to consult with ad agencies because it's something I love. I think that when I started, after college, I knew I'm going to join mass communication because I always knew I want to be a writer. And I think, at that time, the only other Indian writers we knew were people who were writing internationally, Anita Desai and things like that. So it just felt very remote. It was never something that you actively considered and said, this is what I want to be when I grow up, kind of thing, or this is what I want to do now. As in the case of a lot of people who start writing very young now. So for me, the first natural sort of progression as a writer was to say I'll become a copywriter and work in advertising. And I really fell in love with it. And I think I was one of the lucky people who knew what she wanted to do, and I like what I do, and I continue to like it 3 decades later. I really do. I think I have, honestly, like, I'm in the middle of, I have COVID now, and I've been working till 1 a.m. last night on a campaign, and I continue to be a slave driver on that as well. So there hasn't been a shift, as you said. But what happened was that when the fiction writing journey started, which was about 12 years ago, that also came from a very pure place. And I think that, I mean, my main message to anybody always is that do things which come from a place of you really feel like doing it, you'll put that energy into it, and then the progression is going to happen very, very well, because you'll never feel like you're doing something because it'll get you here or get you there. You'll do it because you love doing it. So my journey into writing also started as a result of a bad anniversary night. and it was extremely unromantic. And I thought that I must write something romantic. And at that time, there was a Harlequin contest, looking for the first writer for Mills and Boon for India. And if I had been thinking about it, I may never have written a romance. I was writing short stories before that, which were all in the area of identity or women's issues, which interested me, or humor, maybe, but I had never really written romance, and I had never thought that this would become my genre. But because it came from a spontaneous place, and I enjoyed it, I think I always say, like, do something where the energy and the interest is very high at that point in time. And so for me, it's been pretty much, managing two parallel lovers, can I say? It's been something that I love equally, or let's say that these are two children that you can't choose between. So I managed to juggle both. The only calamity is sleep. Yeah. That's it for me. We'll come to questions later.
Okay, Yasmin ma'am.
Yeah, so for me, it was like I have always been, for the past 11 years, I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know what I'm going to write. That was the beginning of it. And then I thought I should write about myself. And I never did it for 11 years. And then after 11 years, during the COVID, I thought, who's interested in knowing who I am or what I do? Nobody is interested. So then it was a lot of, me time during that, COVID times in 2020. And even before that, in 2018, I stopped managing both my children's work. We had an agency to take over. And that's the time I had a lot of time. And I was struggling with that time on my hand. And I was somewhere getting lost. And that's the time I wanted to know, why is this happening to me? Does it happen to every woman of my age? And also I heard a lot of people talking about 60s, how, your life changes. So that's the time I started, doing a lot of introspection, seeing a counselor and whatnot. And that's when I kind of decided that when I started going inward, I said, I need to write Manan, so that, it helps a lot of women, because there's no point in coming to 60 and then, running helter-skelter. You need to, try and put your life into, take it into control. So I think it took me about at least, this is the 5th year since I stopped managing them. So, I could come out with this book. So I think I took about one year to write and get the book out. But it took me 4 years to do a lot of research and understand that every woman goes through it. So that's how, and finally my dream of 11 years came true. I became an author.
That's wonderful journey, ma'am. Shalini ma'am, what is your take on this?
So my journey is, of course, much smaller, shorter, and very different. I did not have this dream of writing a book. I had actually never thought about writing much at all. It was in 2019 that I started writing only for myself, little pieces, and I started sharing them. And then that sense of recognition which comes when people on social media reach out and someone likes what you read. So that started a cycle of my writing more. And I was writing a lot of short stories, I was writing some poetry, and that's when the pandemic happened. And that's sort of like with Yasmin ma'am, it put everything in an entirely different perspective, except that I was a doctor and we were not under a lockdown and we had to go to work. But other than that, I did have time because obviously family commitments reduced during the pandemic, right? And not just that, as the pandemic drew on, we were very affected by everything that was happening. So writing became, again, like Yasmin ma'am so nicely said, a way of going inwards. that was a way of exploring. So I continued to write, and like I said, both the things happened together. I also had a little more time, and I started putting together longer stories. I started literally from 50 and 100 words, so I've done it in a very linear, progressive manner. And then I started writing these stories, and obviously once you start writing, you do want the stories, the work to go out there. So I put this book together. So it's been a very short journey, and I've been very lucky to have a very compressed and short journey. But I managed during the pandemic to write a good number of short stories, a good number of blog posts, and this book. And I think that there's a question there about sense of purpose. So the purpose of my writing actually was have not to have it out there. The purpose of writing was to go inwards, to explore what I felt, how I wanted to see the world, and to create that world and then to put it out there. So that is basically how my journey happened. And I continue to practice, and I have no plans of giving up medicine. So like Milan ma'am, it is something that I juggle. It The two facets of are entirely different, and I think that all of us have these different aspects in us. So it's not like you do only one thing. Even people who are only writing are looking to so many places for inspiration, right? So as a doctor, actually you get to see a lot of the world, and then a lot of it will come out in your work in different ways. And I would like to think that it also makes you more sensitive, and that probably would come through. So it's not, for me also, it's not that I've given up one thing for the other. Writing is something that I do in my spare time, whatever amount of it that I will get in the future also. And I'm equally, I also equally enjoy my work, and I would, as of now, I have no plans of giving it up.
That's really very nice, ma'am. And actually, when you're talking about short stories, so I have one more question related to that. Like I read Meghna ma'am's stories also, and yours, and Milan ma'am. So I wanted to ask that, when you all coin these stories, means Milan ma'am's book, Our Song, is full of witticism and contemporary references, and that is woven in a very good way. And like your story, which Soulmate Sayoni I read, that was completely a mature and heart-rendering story. And the book which I think Meghna ma'am has left due to some other commitments, so that was related to somehow some thriller. So my question is that, like, you frame the end at the start in when you start writing the story, or when you keep writing, then at the end is framed.
You want Milan ma'am
Like,
to do that first?
whomsoever. I think Milan ma'am has gone in rest mode. She is
I'm
not
here.
feeling well.
Very much. She's very much here with
Yes.
us.
I'm here. I have my video on as well. So
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, for example, Our Song, this book, I plotted this. I'm very much a plotter. I like to know my characters in a lot of detail. A lot of detail means really a lot, which may never actually come into the book, but I will go into their interior and their exterior as much as I can, and every major character, the minor characters also to some extent. So I plotted this around 2010. When I had just written the first book for Harlequin. At that time, I plotted this. I sent it to them. I wasn't happy with my experience with Harlequin. So even though they were interested in it, I had decided I don't want to work with Harlequin anymore. So I just parked the book, and then I had felt like I wanted to go completely opposite in terms of, Mills and Boon was a great experience and learning and launchpad and all that. But I was very clear I didn't want to write any more Mills and Boons. I wanted to be able to write with a lot more freedom. Mills and Boons is like writing for, say, if you're writing for Disney or if you're writing for Pixar, you're writing for a franchise. And there are certain expectations that the reader or the viewer has.
And restrictions.
So when you pick up a Mills and Boon, there is a certain expectation, and there is only so much that you can do. And I certainly did that. I twisted them as much as I could to say, I want to make this my own. I want to make this very Indian, all of that. But I was very clear, I want to write my next book with multiple characters. So TikTok with 30 was with 12 major characters, which was unthinkable for Harlequin, for example. So I parked this book then. But the interesting thing is that when I picked it up again in 2017 and I said, let me just look at this, a lot of life had also happened for me. So when you revisit a book, you're going to look at it differently. Just as when you read a book after a long time, you actually see new meaning in it, and you understand it differently. Things that didn't work for you in college, they suddenly make sense when you're older, or vice versa. For example, there were important things that happened in this book in terms of my character's backstory, which became quite a backbone for the book. In this book, Ragini is a struggling musician. And at that time, I'd had her the story begins with her, trying to do commercial work, ad jingles and all that, to be able to then survive and then continue to do her own music, because she'd been kind of, her music hadn't been liked when her mother remarried into this music family in Delhi, in this very powerful music school and all that. But now when I revisited the book, I realized that itself wasn't enough. So what I did was, now when I have much, much stronger views on misogyny, patriarchy, I mean, over the years when I've been writing, I've also made sure that things like consent, when you're writing sex or when you're developing a relationship, all of those have become pretty clear in my head. At that time, it was there, but it wasn't so clear, let's say, So now, when I wrote it, I could make sure that I changed Ragini's backstory to create something that had shaken her to the core. There was an incident that happens when she's supposed to make her first performance, where one of the guys who was the main subject is threatened by her talent. He tries to molest her and kind of totally, disarm her when she's about to go on. So that became such an important part of her character that when I revisited the book, I found that it changed everything. It made my character much stronger. The story became more than just a romance. It became about learning to stand up for yourself, whether your parents do it, whether your partner does it or not, or your kids do it or not, whatever. So that's something coming from where I am at this point in life. So I think this is how books get shaped, and even therefore, if you say, oh, it's a romance, but there is stuff that you put into it, which is coming from your life experience. And I'm sure Yasmin would, be able to add a lot more to that. I mean, you probably wouldn't have written the book the way you have now if you had tried doing it at 50, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hand the mic over to you now, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, Miran. So, coming from a retail background, I worked as a process analyst. So I believe in, creating a process to do anything that I do. Even if it's the simplest thing, mind में जल्दी से process आ जाता है. जब process आ जाता है तो काम अच्छे से हो जाता है. So I actually had this whole thing planned very well for the book. But then again, as time went, there were, corrections being happening. But I made it very clear why I'm writing this book and what is the outcome that I'm looking from this book. So, and also for women, especially, I just feel like this book has to reach every woman. And there is nothing like, somebody only at 60, even somebody at 20 can read this book and, kind of correct or rather mend their ways so that they don't, take the brunt at 60. And more often, I wanted to become a writer because I wanted a self-identity. There was always an identity crisis. I was either my father's daughter or my children's mother. And now I feel very happy to have that word author hanging next to my name or below my name. So that's one thing that really made me happy. And I knew that if I take up, I was very clear, I didn't want to take up another entertainment job or retail job, which I was for 30 years. I wanted to create something new so that there is a lot of excitement in the rest of my life. I don't know how many years in the tank, but it's going to keep me occupied. Every day is a new day. Every day is exciting.
And you are spreading happiness in the order all the time.
In fact, when I was writing, I called Milan once and we had a long chat. I was in Airlines Hotel in Bangalore. I was having coffee there. I had 3 coffees because I didn't know what to do there. I was having coffee after coffee and I was talking to her. And, I was discussing with her, remind me, ye hai, wo hai, and all that stuff. And then it didn't just happen. And then I think you went traveling, right? We didn't meet after that. So, yeah. So this is the next 30 years program for me, hopefully.
Sure. Yes, Shalini ma'am.
So, Yasmin ma'am, that was very interesting. I mean, really. So, you asked about how
That is, you can say that will and desire.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting and really inspiring. So, what Shalini's question was about how I think all of us have a different process for etching out the stories, and I'm not as experienced as the other people here. But what I did was I created the characters as best as I could understand them, gave them whatever backstories I could, and after that, I let the stories flow. Because while, like Milind ma'am so beautifully explained, that there is a bit of us in almost everything we write, but our characters they're not me. So I sort of left like a relationship, because the book is about different relationships. So I sort of, like a relationship runs its natural course, right? I let the story run its natural course. In fact, out of 3 stories, 2 stories, I changed the ending totally, from what I had started out with. And I think that is also the way life works. We start often with a very prefixed idea or a concept, especially in a relationship. And that's not how it happens, right? It does not pan out that way. So I realized that the concept that I had in my head, that this has to end like this, was pulling my story down. So I had to let go, and I let it go wherever the story went, for whatever it's worth, for whatever the readers have taken away. So I started with a broad plot, an outline, and the strong characters. And after that, it is a question of what feels right. I wrote it in one way. The story that you spoke about, Sayoni, I wrote it in one way for many, many months. And then it didn't feel right. So I wrote it in another way. And then I read both of them. Whichever feels closer to the heart is where the story had to go. And this is a book which I've really written from the heart. So I don't have a very complicated plot line for it. But like Yasmin ma'am, I also have a process for most things I do. I love that part which you said, because even if it's something small, I'll sit down with a paper and a pen. Ab ye karna hai. So broadly, yes, but I let the story go. I let the story flow, and I feel that worked for me. So if you don't mind, there's a question here for me. Can I take that, or do you want to take that in the end, in the chat?
We'll take those, ma'am, in the end.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah. So my next question is how the budding writers can develop and nurture creativity in them, and what makes them a good writer, how they can be a good writer. So what would be your suggestions for them to be a good writer, and how they can proceed further?
Can the budding go first?
Yeah, sure.
Because after they give their
The most aspiring
I
one.
will be left with nothing. So I will say first, then they can complete it. I don't know. One thing that I
Had a
learned.
long talk on that Yasmin ma'am said that I'm not a fiction writer till now, so how I will be participating in the
Part of
conversation?
this, yeah,
No,
because,
you will be the
yeah,
most happening one.
Yeah, I was just listening to Shalini also. She was saying, the characters, and even Milan was saying
Even
about
ma'am, even your characters are the real one. Your stories are
mine
the
are
real one.
real.
Those are stories.
Yeah.
And
So-
I really liked each and every story. Uma Pai's, Lakshmi's, and all stories I really loved.
So when you have to create a character and make that character a part of the story, then you need a lot of creativity, which I'm zero on. So that all my children have taken. I don't have anything with me. So that's one thing. And I think for all the budding writers, one advice from my end will be, as a budding writer, when you write something, disconnect yourself. Don't read it again and again like an author. If you read it like an author, you will keep making changes and the final will never come. But when you step back and look at it like a reader, then you will understand where the flaws are. I hope Milan and Shalini will agree with me on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you agree on this?
Sure, ma'am.
No, I also get a tip if you're saying no or whatever. So please be.
No, it's very important. In fact, I had this habit of, and I still do. Earlier, I would keep reading, like if supposing I was writing, I like to write in a linear fashion, as in my head, the way the story has to unfold is the way I will write it. But there are people who will write one section first and another section later and juggle back and forth in that, I tried that. When I write plays, I've done it with scene cards, but not in books. So I would typically, let's say if I'm on chapter 5, I will again start reading the first 4 chapters before I start on chapter 5. And then I start fixing problems, exactly as you said. So now what I do is I don't even keep that in front of me. I still write by hand, which is, I know, archaic, but that's how it is. So I just make sure that I keep only that current chapter that I'm working on in front of me. And I keep my all my character details and everything right in front of me. I'll refresh myself again and again till it's fully embedded inside. It takes a little time when you're starting a new book. So to give an example, this is it's in front of me, so I can show it. This is my current bag of work. So I'm carrying, just showing it here. This is my current work in progress. So there are two pieces of work in it. So whenever I want to go off to write, I'll just carry this bag with me. And yeah, so for example, this book, this has the notes on a current fiction that's going on. So this is only these are only all the character notes going on. All the secondary characters and the primary characters are in this. And then, and then there is this lot, which is research, which is currently going on a non-fiction. So, like I said, it's very tedious. It's by hand. I would die and have a heart attack if I lose it. So this is more precious than anything else.
I can understand with 2 books. I use the computer. I use and abuse the computer.
You both are at an advantage because as journalists, I think your hands fly on the keyboard. Mine don't.
Okay.
So earlier I used to feel very disheartened.
Actually, my next question was also related to it. My next question was related to it, that you write having a diary, pen or paper in hand, or pencil with you, or you just directly type on laptop or computer, so that that you could already showing your diary.
Your earlier question, which is in terms of any advice, anybody who wants to write, I find that more and more, I find that people who ask me they want to write, they start talking about being published before they've written. Which is just amazing. Like, what are we talking about, right? Even I come from advertising, and I know how I work best, which is I know I work best with that axe over my head, and I need a deadline, and I need a commitment I've made to somebody to deliver. Like right now through COVID, I'm working because I have a presentation in the next 5 days on 2 brands. So whatever it is, I'm working, I'm making everybody else work with me. Similarly, for a book, at least once it's plotted, you've written a couple of chapters, and if you have sent it to a publisher and it's been commissioned, which means that you don't have the final book, you don't have the full ready manuscript. And more, this is, not the case. I mean, people are not commissioning until you have the full manuscript. But I've gotten used to that. So I like to be able to say, this is the book, this is the plan, here are the first few chapters, And if you like it, if you commission it, then I work best because I know my process. Then I know I have to work backwards. This is the date we've committed. And this is the way advertising kind of screwed me, I guess. So, so then I know that I have to deliver at least, or if I work backwards, I know I have to write at least this much by this time. So then I start burning the midnight oil and everything. But for new writers, I would say that don't start worrying about how you're going to get published, who should you contact, which publisher, because they want to see your manuscript, they want to see your work. And especially if you're an unpublished author, they're not going to look at anything, which is not finished. That's what I think has changed, especially in the last 3 years. So that is one thing. And the second, in fact, to touch upon what Shalini mentioned, she wrote something one way and another way. We often hear this phrase, kill your darlings, because as writers, we tend to fall in love with our own work. It's so hard, the initial first book, if your editor is sitting and saying, get rid of this, get rid of that, oh my goodness, how many times I have cried, how many times I have held hands of good friends who are constantly through the night sending me chat messages. What does this woman think? How does she think? Does she not understand this? And I'm saying, like, please be patient, please explain to her, this is what you feel. So you're going on with changes in tracks, whatever, but you have to, sort of be very objective when feedback is coming in, and kill your darlings if you have to. You may have written an extremely interesting section, but it has no relevance to the story or to adding character or to anything. So your editor may feel it's irrelevant. Or there were sections I remember in TikTok with 30 where my humor was getting a little political, and the editor wanted to get rid of it. So I finally had to see her point and say, okay, I mean, it was just more my character, who is this, one of those characters was an irreverent character who would keep saying this, things which were like this and have entire theories to support it. But the editor felt it could get the book into trouble. So you say, okay, fine. Do I really lose so much? So you have to be willing to kill your darlings. Those are the two key things. Don't think, dream of being published till you've written. Likh lo pehle. And then also don't fall entirely in love with your own work that you can't bear any feedback and any critiquing or anything. Easier said, of course. Yeah.
So Milind ma'ams, I don't think I have any tips, but what I want to say as someone who started out as a complete outsider to writing is that we need to learn to write. I mean, that for me is a given. You have to, I think all of us can write 100 words or 1,000 words, and after that, we're pretty much doing the same thing. Now, how we grow and how we evolve is a very individual thing, and it also depends on what else we are doing with our lives, but we have to learn. So I learned like a sponge. Like Milind ma'am may not remember, she was there in a session where someone asked her that, we get very stuck when we ask to compile, give a synopsis. So there was this one line tip she gave, which I'm going to share on her behalf, if that's okay. And that stayed with me, and I'm using it for my second book, which is a complete novel. So what Milind ma'am told us was that each of your chapters, you have to turn it into a Netflix summary. And that is so bang on. And I did not understand it the day she said it. I understood it the day I started doing it. Because that meant, as I interpreted, you have to be detached from it. It's like, is chapter mein ye hota hai, ye hota hai, ye hota hai. It's not she feels bad, he feels bad. It was a very very compact 3-line synopsis. And I started reading the Netflix synopsis that day, whenever I was watching.
I remember this.
So what I'm trying to say is that there is a lot of information out there. There are so many people like Milind ma'am, like Yasmin ma'am, who are ready to share with people who are trying to learn. And I think all of us are learning. I mean, I am very new to all this. So you have to find what works for you to learn. For all of us, different things will work. Some people are not okay in a group. Some people are not okay alone. I'm not okay in a large group. I'm okay in a small group. But we need to find other people to exchange our ideas, to get feedback, to grow. And like Milind ma'am said, that there's a lot of rush right now for publishing anything. There are so many magazines, so many anthologies. You have to narrow down to what is it that you want to publish, what is the kind of writing that because you cannot do every kind of writing out there. It's not possible. So you need to be consistent, and that I think is not very easy for women writers to do because of the time challenges. But I think Milan ma'am is the best example of being able to juggle things if you want to. Like she said, if you're committed enough to it, you will find the time. So that is basically my thing, is to, you have to gain. I learned like a sponge. Whichever forum I was in, there's always some one or two nuggets that you pick up, which you don't even realize then. You realize it later when you're writing. Oh, someone guided me like this. Someone spoke about voice. How do I change the scene? Or how do I write a bit of myself into this scene? So those kind of things. So you have to engage with the community in whichever way that works for you. So that is whatever all that I can offer.
Nice.
That's wonderful ideas you all are giving to me. Now, my next question is, like many burgeoning writers, and even in our normal life also, sometimes, and many people in many professions, they fail, they fail, or they face failures, and they face hurdles. So if there are some deadlines, they are more stressed up, and they, like Milan ma'am said, that when there are deadlines, so she tries to finish it on time, and the works comes out in a best way. But sometimes people give up. So how and what kind of advice you would like to give them, how to meet the deadlines, and how to face that stress in life, and overcome that, and what exactly the success means, and how they can get the success, sidelining the
Jasmine,
failure.
go. You go for it.
The baby first. Yeah. So I think, yeah, what was your question? Sorry. You
Yeah,
asked?
my question is, Sam, that how to meet the expectations and deadlines, and means if you are
Deadlines
going
and
through a
things.
failure
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
phase, so how to overcome that, and
So
what
when
success
you,
exactly means.
yeah. So when you know there are a certain deadlines, you have to be disciplined to sit down and do your work on time. There's no point in, just behaving like overconfident and saying, I can do everything, and then last minute you sweat, you can't complete it. So I think you have to have a lot of discipline when you're doing anything, not just writing. Even if you have to cook for the day, you enter the kitchen on time, your lunch will be on time on table. That's it. And but one thing, when you're writing, usually the writing comes only in the night. Do you guys also experience that?
For me, for sure.
Don't have the time to write.
Huh?
Writing comes when you don't have the time to write. So I doodle on post-it notes and keep sticking them somewhere.
Yeah, I also do that. But night is the time when you sit, you can collate everything and you can do. I have done all the writing in the nights.
That's true for me also, but I hear people who talk of, I remember one journalist asked, what's your golden hour? So I think everybody has to find their golden hour in terms
Golden
of,
hour.
some people
I
like to
think
get up early morning and do it before the day.
Yes.
So you have to
Because
find that.
also at that time, we don't have, like anybody sending you a WhatsApp message or, there's no distraction. In the day, you sit down to write and you think, oh, I have to call that one. So your mind itself is distracting you. But when in the night, everybody is sleeping, nobody is awake, you can't call anybody. So just leave the phone in the hall and go and sit there and do your work. So
I have to confess, I have even put the phone in the fridge at sometimes. I just go and put it in the fridge and say, totally out of the way. I won't hear it, anything. I won't be tempted to look at it, So just move it out.
I think it's the biggest addiction.
Yeah. No, I write in the mornings. I get up in the morning to write. I'm not a night person. So I think, like ma'am said, everyone, but we need to find that time. And what I found was that if we make that time consistent, it works better. We get used to writing at a particular time, so thoughts flow better. So that was one thing.
So one of the things that I always tell anybody who asks, about writing and all that, it seems like to me everybody wants to be a writer. And the thing is, I keep saying, Yasmin, like you, I also found that despite having been in advertising for a very long time, done a lot of campaigns, it's an industry where in the industry people know me. Somebody knows that I did the Pizza Hut launch, I did the AOL launch for India, but only that industry knows you. We all have awards within the industry. So again, it's like, even if you look at some of the biggest stars in India, bahar kaun janta hai, right? So you're a big fish in a small pond at the end of the day, and that sense of identity that especially advertising, for example, you don't know who created that campaign. Very few will know of people, who've done this or that.
Yeah.
So writing gave me that also, but I also feel like, there's a lot of pressure that authors put on themselves to keep on writing. Just because you've written one book, why are we dying and killing ourselves to write the next book or the third book or the fourth book? Because publishers are asking us for it, because there's social media pressure. Everybody's posting their new books. You think, oh man, I'm missing out. I also need to have another book out. But all of it is completely unnecessary, right? I mean, if that thing really gives you a kick or a joy or whatever, at that point in time, also wisdom is also in knowing why you're doing it. Do you really want to keep doing it? Why are you giving yourself grief over it? And to many writers who ask me this, I keep saying, first of all, are you very clear? Are you clear on why you want to write? And secondly, everybody is deluded and thinks they can write, which is not the case. I remember there was a writer in in JWT Delhi when I was there, and he was in my group, and he was an amazing advertising writer. And I remember sometime later, after my second book or first book happened, he wrote a message and congratulating on Facebook and all that. And I kept saying, I thought you would have a book out by now, because he wrote so well. His campaigns were really lovely, well crafted, well thought. There was an idea and the skill. But he said, no, I tried it and I realized I couldn't. And this is true. And it's something I have realized even when I've been involved with, say, launching somebody's book. There were times when somebody would say, will you launch this book for me? And I initially, like the publisher said that this is also one of our authors, will you do it? I'd say, okay. And then I would read it and I'd be appalled, and say, what is this? And then you have to get through that evening or whatever, and you still actually don't really like the writing. Then I thought, I'm getting smarter, and I would say, no, please make sure that book reaches me in advance. And I would, once or twice I read it, and it seemed all right. And I remember once it was some journalist, so who had writing skills, but the ability to build an interesting plot, the ability to build characters who you can invest in. All of it is what comes together in a good book, So our thinking that somebody says, oh, you wrote such nice posts on Facebook or whatever. I'm saying this for myself as well, right? We need to be able to say, can I actually hold a person's story long enough? And then now I've also come across so many people who are writing in much shorter formats. I think at Odisha Lit Fest, I met this lady who was only writing flash fiction. And she had become really big in Europe for her flash fiction. So to know what your ideas and your storytelling, what format it's best suited for, is yet another thing that you must explore and learn, and not everybody jump in thinking I can tell a big long story, a novel, which is at the very least 60,000 words, 60 to 70,000, or a novella length would be, let's say, 40,000. That's a lot for somebody to engage in it. So I think also to be able to say, I think this is what I'm better suited to. And how do you know it? Only by reading, keep going on reading. Most people nowadays love to come and say, oh, but I don't read. I want to write, but I don't want to read, which is amazing. So my thing about, success or not or whatever is, first of all, get very clear in your head to say, why do I even want to do this? Why? Just because somebody I know did it? Or because I think I can do it, but like be able to take feedback. Most people can't take feedback, including myself. We're all sensitive and we all love our own work.
Yeah. And I think disconnecting yourself with whatever you have done is very important.
Yeah.
You've done some work. If you think it is good, just put it out there and leave it for the people to decide whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And like you said, for the longest time, I thought written and spoken are two different things. How will I write? But then I realized when I was writing, I didn't have to do that, because now when I get the reviews, it says it's such an easy read. I got a compliment from one of the psychologists, like it felt like you were sitting and talking to me. So that kind of,
you're a natural.
It gave me comfort.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to be a natural writer.
Actually, most people stumble on dialogue, especially.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I think that I love to give credit where it's due. So for me, very long ago, I'd done a playwriting workshop with Mahesh Tatani. And, there, I think is where I first learned about characters and plot points and all that. And then understanding, the meters and the different ways that people speak. I started observing all my friends. I started observing people around me. You even now, right? Everybody in the room, we have four of us speaking largely, Yasmin, me, Shalini. And all of us string our sentences differently. We have different pauses, we have different. So all of that makes for real reading when you are able to pick it up and put it into your characters.
Yeah.
I think reading, like you said, is the most important thing, because when you're reading anything, your perspective changes. Like you said, you pick up about what works, the sentence structure works, what kind of language works. So I think reading any and everything is very, very important. And I think especially for people who are learning more passively like I am, it's been very useful. And now there are so many other, of course, books on writing, but even if you're just reading fiction or non-fiction, it's a huge help. I think that
magazines, even if you read magazines, even magazines have their own style. They have their own style in terms of the way they tell a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you read Time magazine, you'll always notice how the sentences are very, very tight, very crisp.
Yes.
So
Times
all of it is a way to learn how to change your writing for each character or narrative. Yeah.
That's wonderful, ma'am. Really, this is very beneficial for all of us, that reading leads us to writing also in a way. And my next question is that somehow reading and writing, what I feel that many authors themselves also might have cured their illness, mental, physical, or psychological. So what is your take on that, that reading and writing helps in engaging yourself in productivity, and in a way it helps in healing you? It's a process of self-healing that even the book Manan also says, the self-healing and self know about it. That what do you think that reading and writing does help in the kind of sickness people are facing nowadays in COVID period and after COVID period? Yasmin ma'am. डॉक्टर साहिबा से शुरू कर देते हैं.
I don't know about the rest of the world, but reading has saved my life many times. It has brought me back from so many negative situations that I can't even count. I think it has truly saved my life, because one, it gives you perspective. Two, it gives you an escape. Both are very, very essential when you are dealing with stuff you never expected to. The third, writing, of course, I don't know if I can speak for every writer out there, but I think any creative thing that we are doing, when we are doing the act of doing that creative action, is connecting us to ourselves. At least it is for me. And I think that is why we are writing. I don't think the primary purpose of anyone is to write to reach a bestseller top list. Of course, that's very great for those whom it happens, but I don't know if they start out like that. So, to be connected to yourself is the start of healing, right? To explore, to introspect. And that part of writing may not come out in your books. That part of writing may not come out in that form. But it is once you have explored those parts of yourself, you have walked through the darkness with yourself, what comes out on the paper may be different, but that is also a reflection of healing. So yes, writing is definitely a healing. Any creative work, I feel, is. And reading, I feel if you have learned to read, if you've developed the habit to read, you are equipped to deal with almost anything. Like a woman in a times of searching for her identity will only read Yasmin ma'am's book if she's a reader, right? So that book needs to reach all of us, and all of us need to read that. So reading is integral to the process. So that is how I see it, honestly. Rest, Yasmin ma'am and Milind ma'am are there.
No, I think reading is always good, because as kids, my grandmother always said, उन दिनों में तो वो होता था कि एक वुमन ज़रा भी घर पे आती थी, तो that also used to be hidden inside the cupboard. We are not eligible to read that woman ज़रा. You know, I come from that kind of a background. But my grandmother used to say, newspaper you should read. It helps you in your vocabulary, your reading skills and all that stuff. So you have to read at least newspaper. But today, I don't read newspaper now, because newspaper is a disaster completely. Newspaper padke, you become more negative. So I don't read newspaper. I like something which is happy, good news, and that is very difficult to find. I think there is one Better India or something on Facebook that has some very positive things. I like that. But otherwise, yeah, reading, I think, always helps you in many ways. Even like if you're standing somewhere and you're just bored, you can just see something and just keep reading that. Thoda time nikal jayega usme. Reading is always, it helps.
Yeah, so should I start?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so in terms of how does writing help, I think that first of all, as you said, Shalini, I think that the fact is that it's good to have a reality check on why are we doing this, and I think definitely it's a way of expressing yourself or working through something or whatever, and I think most people will tell you that that's why you start with journaling. The journaling is a word that's become very big now, but when we were kids, we kept a diary. And we wrote a diary, and in my case also, I was part of a family of lengthy letter writers. So I was lucky that I had uncles and mamas and all who were all kind enough to write separately to a child. So you felt very important. If it was like, dear Milan, and 3 pages came specially for you, then you would sit down and reply specially again. So the writing habit began early for me, and it helped me learn that there were ways of expressing which were on different levels. So what I was writing in my diary would be, let's say, different for what I was writing to my uncle, and those were things that you were learning to separate even in your head. Even if you were writing a murder, for example, the amount of information you give your reader at what point in time is all stuff you're learning, as a part of that reading and writing. So I think that the catharsis of writing, and Yasmin, you've written a memoir, so you'd know that best. But for me, I remember somebody asked me, what are the most difficult scenes for you to write, and they assumed that I would say sex, because it is something which isn't easy. It doesn't come easily to. I don't imagine it comes easily to anybody. It's as difficult, or can be as nuanced as you want it to be, or you have to figure out even in that scene how you want to play out that scene, and you're going to do it in a way, you want to do it in a way that doesn't make you cringe, but it has the desired response. I mean, if the idea of that scene is to lead a person to feel XYZ, you want to build that in. Your characters' lines should not be cheesy, should not be this, whatever. So all of that, but the tough parts were never that. For me, the tough parts were always going to be the emotional ones. So, for example, in our song, where I had taken it to a slightly higher spice level than previous books, the scene where I knew that I wanted, at some stage there was going to be one scene where Ragini talks to and drew the character about the time she lost her father, which was a pretty emotional time for her, because after that led to her mother remarrying and all that. That scene of describing her father's death, and I think this is a parallel I could draw, because I've also learned playwriting and I've also learned acting. I've not practiced it, but I was very interested in it, so that I would see. I was very clear, I want to see it from the other side. So I want to see writing from the other side, the way the actor looks at a script, so, or so you know how much little to put into it and leave it for the actor and so on. So similarly, when an actor is going to put themselves into a scene, you're going to draw on an emotion from something else, but you're going to use that emotion to be able to channel it into that scene. So for me, again, when I was writing about Ragini losing her father and what happened, I was drawing upon a loss that I have been through, but I can now put it into that situation. So you're drawing on that emotion, but it was actually, I realized I'd been postponing writing that scene right.
Hello.
Milan's internet is stuck.
Right.
Yes, I think ma'am's internet has gone. Okay, so let's continue.
So, Shalini, part two part two of all your questions are part one and part two. Part two was you wanted to know whether it is a catharsis or what is it? Is it a healing?
Yes, ma'am, healing.
See,
Like I have read Richard. There was a haiku writer, so he wrote 4,000 haikus in his life, and more than 817 were published. And he was a bedridden person, but means writing haiku was like therapy for him.
yeah, but then I think it is not the same in everybody's case. Because the books are not, everybody is not writing to heal, no?
Yes, yes.
If somebody is writing, like somebody is writing a romantic novel, how will they heal? I don't know. नहीं मालूम. Healing नहीं होता है, लिखना है बस.
They may be engaged in that particular field.
It is giving you something inside.
Some kind of entertainment or some kind of engagement they might have if they have some.
No. When you're writing, there's nothing like you have an engagement or an entertainment while writing a romantic story. It'll just be that whatever you're happy about doing what you're doing. You're just happy about doing what you're doing. And if you've done it, then you put the book out. If somebody likes it, it's good for you. It's just about doing what you like to do.
Yeah.
It gives you a happiness, but it's not going to heal you or something. Unless you are like a totally, I don't know.
It could, but it's not always going to happen.
Not
And
always the same.
What's healing you, others may not always like to read that also, you see. So
Yeah.
that's a very personal, a very private kind of a writing, which would heal. I'm not sure that you would want to put everything out there and that others would like to have all of that out there either. So it would be in a very individual kind of a thing, I guess.
Sorry, I got disconnected, but yeah, I was just listening to you all at the other end of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, what your emotions are, what you've experienced, that's up to you to decide what you'll draw on and also what's relevant to the story. That's where you'll edit later, But yeah.
Okay, now
let me tell you, Milan, I used to be scared of reading a Milton Boone because I hated those heroes in that.
Yeah. They were very cliched.
And the description, I can still remember that description. He stared at her with the hard eyes and
I think that that was all very also what worked for them then. They've come a long way. but I'm no spokesperson for them. Like I said, I wrote one 12 years ago and moved on from there. But what I wrote then also was very clear. I said, I'm writing it the way I believe in it. And that's why it took a year back and forth with my editors in UK to get them to understand that I'm not going to be looking at their formula or whatever, So,
But I think a lot of youngsters enjoyed reading that. But I was always very scared of reading a Milton book. I was scared of that hero, so I never read it.
but I think it's a rite of passage, maybe for our, maybe slightly, now I don't even know if anybody is reading them, but they know what they're doing. Harlequin, they're still the biggest publishers of romance.
Yeah.
They've definitely brought out a lot of stuff which talks to today's people. I mean, so they have gay romance, they have LGBTQ romances, they have segregated their product. Like they literally, I think they think of it as a product. So you have country romances, you have international jet setting romances, you have all of that. So when people are looking also on the shelves, they know exactly what they're looking for, they get it, and they
Correct.
yeah. But like I said, I'm not their spokesperson and I don't write for them anymore. But it was a great learning. It was also very deep learning in terms of romance, because till then you'd read it or you'd experienced it or not experienced it, but you hadn't really thought about what went into it. And you realize that what they have cracked, so to speak, is what you see in most rom-coms that we enjoy. It's not very different. Look at Bridget Jones' Diary, look at Notting Hill, any of it. I mean, most of it is pretty much what they, sort. Am I there or have I lost the
No,
call?
we are there. We are
You're
there.
audible now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they understand what they're doing, and that's why I guess they're doing well at it. For me, the parallel journey has been very much in short stories as well. So the short stories that I write are completely away from romance. And I've been writing in, for example, one was about a woman's dilemma when she wants to adopt and has always wanted one biological child and one which she adopted. And then one night when she's faced with that option, one story is about that. Another is about a young girl who's a adolescent and her first encounter with a transgender person. So the themes of those stories, or one is about sexual abuse, a young girl who's a young kid who's not found the courage yet to talk about it to her parents. So a lot of this, what happens is that if you start thinking of, the publisher is not taking it, or some of them have found homes for me in anthologies, like a couple of them are with Penguin and Harper and so on. But now what I find is that in the pandemic, I figured out how to self-publish. So I put these stories up on Kindle on my own, and I just feel like it's better than just sitting with you on your computer. It's better, it's out there for the world to read. Whoever reads it, even if 10 people read it, it's okay. At least it's better than nobody read it and you had it all with you.
Correct.
Yes, one last question I would like to ask. That is when I was reading Manan, so there were many characters like Uma Pai Mala Manu Sukhani and Lakshmi Nawaz and Yasmin ma'am herself also was there, one of the. So like these all are the powerful symbol of women emancipation. So how do you see the condition of women nowadays in the society? Like before few days, I had read one article of Meghna ma'am also in Dainik Bhaskar, like domestic violence and domestic abuse is still going on, and in COVID period it increased more and more. And after that, like now the movie Darlings also came, and that is somehow showing the things vice versa, and people are promoting that, but that is also not good in a way. So how do you see the condition of women in the society, and what steps can be taken ahead to, you can say, I feel that the process is very slow. So what can be done for that, for making the position more stronger?
Yeah. So, Shalini, in my book, I have taken the stories of everyone who's above 60.
Yes.
And it's not a preachy or a advice giving kind of a thing.
Yes, yes.
And I
That
made
is kind of that you introspect, self-realize and implement in your life.
Yeah. So what I did was I created a framework, because every piece of life goes through hardships. And everybody, the moment you start talking to anybody, it first starts off with the problems or the problems that they faced. That's what they talk about. So that is why I wanted the how these women drop the baggage and move forward, and what they are doing now. Because today the medical has improved so much that it can give you, it can make your body survive. If you have BP, it can stabilize. If you have sugar, it can stabilize. Your thyroid can be stabilized. Everything can be done to take care of your body. But what happens to your mind? And the mind has to be in the control of your own self. Unless you have the awareness, you will not be able to understand what happens when you say a narrative. A narrative is something, if you keep on repeating, it keeps on affecting your mind and your body. So that is where it comes that, you have to change that narrative. So I don't call my book self-help book also. I say this is not a self-help book. So there are many women who have changed the life. They've changed the narrative in their heads. But today, I'm just not talking about the rural women. Even the urban women are still like that. The moment you talk to them, they start off with, in my childhood, and then when I got married, that is where they start. Ab marriage ho gaya, kitna saal ho gaya? Thoda sa, I know it happens with all of us, but then we need to, also change that narrative and start moving ahead. Because when I'm 50 and 55, if I'm saying, and also women are multitasking, they do a lot of things at one go, they can do many things. And they also have the, the tags that they've been given. They are somebody's mother, somebody's aunt, somebody's sister, somebody's daughter. So they take those roles very seriously. You have to also understand that you are you. If you do not accept yourself, if you do not respect yourself, you're not going to go anywhere. And that is where you're going to, your mind is not going to match with your body. If you make your mind powerful, the rest of the 45 years, whatever, if you tend to live, you will at least live in grace. So there is no need to have a stronger purpose where, saying that I want to earn so much money, or I want this, I want that. No. Just if you can strike a balance of peace, if every mother is going to be in peace, her rest of the family is going to be in peace. The children will be happy that my mom is okay. The entire universe will be okay if you're okay. But the problem is we don't want to be okay. We are all the time looking at everything as a problem. We do not want to make amendments with anything. Letting go, forgiving. These are the things that we need to slowly bring in, and it will all happen one step at a time with practice. And that is how it's going to think. So Manan talks about that. Manan talks only about how are you going to live for the rest of your life if you don't understand your own self. So when I brought this Manan, I was also thinking of my own journey, because I was turning 60, and after I've written this book, I have heard, I don't know how many young girls coming and talking to me and saying that my mother is going bonkers, we don't know what to do. Because this is like today who's 30 years later is going to be 60. And if we are alive, we are going to be 90 or we are not going to be there. So if people start learning from now how to manage themselves, it's going to be helpful to get into that life. So that's what it talks about.
Yes. In a way, definitely it is going to change the lives of women in India. Whomsoever is going to read it, they will be more, you can say, resilient, more strong, more powerful.
A lot of people ask me, how many books have you sold? I don't care how many books I sold. If I'm going to talk to one person about Manan, I have reached out to one person. And if I talk to 10 people, I've reached out to 10 people. That is how I will look at it. And I would like to talk to many people about Manan. I would like to make them bring in that transformation from within. It's not about the sale of the book or anything like that. So that is my purpose.
Okay.
You're on mute.
Hello.
Yeah, how we can, or what kind of steps we can take to change the position of women in India. So that was my question. So Shalini ma'am, Milind ma'am, would you like to answer it?
See, I think that a very important thing to remember is the formats are different. When Yasmin has written a memoir, so when somebody's picking it up, they're expecting to be able, they know what they're reading. They know that they're going to read about this person's life experience, in whether it's this period of time or over, whatever period of time the person has chosen to write about in the memoir. So the expectation is set, which is a great thing. But when a person is picking up a fiction, the thing is that most of the time people, they need to engage with your characters. So one of the biggest things we need to remember is that whatever I feel about how I want women to be seen or whatever, the important thing is to make sure that I don't lose my reader and I don't get preachy. I can't bore them. I can't lecture them.
Yeah.
I have to build interest through the story in whatever genre I've picked up. Right? It doesn't mean that if I'm writing crime, I can't have a message that's built in there, even then, for women or whatever. The kind of character I choose to show, a stronger woman who has been through whatever, or who is go through whatever in the story. And if it's humor, I will have to stay true to the genre that I want to write in. But I can still have my personal beliefs that are told through storytelling, and that's very important. For example, I remember very early, even a simple question like talking about using protection, in a romance. Somebody asked me, said, would you make sure that is it a conscious thing? Is it a built-in thing? I said, the thing is that whatever it is, it should not be an oversight. In terms of, if supposing my characters don't use protection, it should not just be that I forgot to write about it in the scene. If they didn't, were there consequences? Did something happened? Did that woman go through anxiety attack later? I should have made that a conscious choice in my writing. And that's a smaller issue. But let's say that when we're talking about women's issues, we can leave an impact even if it's not your main story. And as you said, Yasmin, the important thing is to be able to even touch that one reader or two readers. And I'll give a very important personal example from my
Internet.
Milind ma'am's net is stuck again.
Okay, Shalini ma'am, you continue. We are going to wind up the session after
Yeah,
that.
actually, totally
Remarks.
what Milind ma'am was saying. In fiction, that's the thing. And we have the liberty, actually, through our character arc to do that when we are telling a story. It is we who gets to decide what steps and what decisions our women protagonists take, right? So in my book, actually, that's what has happened, that my book is a romance, but the women have taken charge of their lives as best as they could. They have made the best of circumstances which a lot of women might be facing every day, and they've grown. And love happens, yes, or doesn't, but that does not define your life. So like Milind ma'am was saying, it is that character arc, it is how our characters grow through the story, how they evolve. Even we can choose to show diversity, we can choose to be inclusive in our side plots, we can normalize certain things, and that is, I think that is a privilege that those of us who are writing women-centric fiction have, because our readers are also women. So even if that message reaches one or two women, and we are able to normalize walking out of a bad relationship, for example, I think that is a task done. But at the same time, like ma'am said, that it has to go with our story. We cannot dump it on our reader. We cannot say that, this happened, so this happened. It has to be natural and it has to be part of the story. But yes, if we are conscious and mindful of that, I think it will happen gradually. So like I said, I think now ma'am is back. She will continue.
No, absolutely, Shalini. What you're saying is very right. Because the thing is, in fiction, our characters have to be believable, and our characters have to have a graph. So if everybody is at that ideal starting point, then where is the graph in the character development also? So it's important to know what you're doing to be able to work towards it. It doesn't mean that we start off at that same, everybody can't start off in that evolved, aware, inclusive kind of place. But it is important, I think, and we have, as you said, it's a privilege that we can leave some impressions, even if we reach a small body of readers. And I was just giving a very important example from my life, which was, when Our Song had just come out, which is just before the pandemic happened, and I was going to a couple of lit fests. And so at that time, I had gone to the Kolkata Lit Fest, and I also have always believed that I'm a communicator. I'm in advertising and I'm a writer. And I find that I don't have the staying power it takes. Like, I've often wanted to volunteer for certain causes that I believe strongly in, but I don't have the power in me to say, I'll keep coming there and doing this day after day. But what I have is the ability to write and to be able to create either ad campaigns or books. So I had at that time just volunteered for something called the Kalinga Foundation. And it's a body of people around the world working in trafficking in women and children. So I had said, I'll come for that. It was a 10-day intensive sort of a thing. We were all collecting in Delhi to work on it. And we were getting all the stakeholders involved and going to understand, the point of views of people in police and working in shelters, activists on the ground, GB Road, the sex workers, their boyfriends, they call them boyfriends, what we call pimps. So the whole thing was one very intensive exercise. And I was coming in from the Kolkata Lit Fest. So I said that I'm going to be missing the first session. I was taking the morning flight, coming in there in the afternoon. And when I went in, they had already been broken up into smaller groups. So I went to the group that I was going to be a part of. And there I met this young woman who had come from Srinagar. This is just when they had stopped the internet and, there was no connectivity for them. She had gone on to, because she also was a person who really believed in what the work was, happening in the foundation. And she'd got on to a bus for 2 days without connectivity, arrived there. When we met and she knew of me, it was very, very, of course, it's one of those lovely moments when, somebody says, Milan, and they know your name, they know your work, and you say, oh, wow, and the kind of moments we all live for and you can never have enough of. But anyway, so in one of the breakaway sessions, and I said, okay, so like, have you even read anything, or you just heard of me, or what? It started the conversation. She said, of course not. And she had read Our Song. So there was a time when it was just her and me chatting one evening. And because of the fact that Ragini had been through this really, this molestation experience that had shaken her up so badly, this lady started telling me about something that had happened to her, which was horrific. And I realized that she was 30 years old. She had never talked to anybody about what she had been through. Something that had happened to her as a child repeatedly. And because of that story and that little section in the book, which shaped that character, she was sharing something with me And then she actually, I mean, I'm just telling you, this sounds very immodest, but she took my hand and she just said, thank you for writing. And I thought to myself, if I do nothing else in my life, I feel so validated. I feel that, I did something where it made her open up and talk about something. And thereafter, she's continued to work on it with professionals. And literally, that is where we can bring in some change through our writing, to come back to the starting point that Shalini asked. It doesn't have to be, it was not the main plot. It was one part of my character's backstory, but it did come into the story. It was believable. And that's the other thing, right? We want to write stories that are believable, where our characters can relate. And nobody is really now buying into unless you're writing fantasy, of course. But even there, they've got challenges and they've got whatever. So yeah, that's the only way we can keep hoping to try and make some difference, even while we engage or make somebody laugh, or like I said, whatever genre you're writing in, you can make little differences. That's it from me.
And also, I think readers are quite intelligent now. They even reading, they understand that you're trying to preach them.
Of course.
They don't want it. Nobody wants preaching. Even while speaking, if you try to say something, then they just switch off.
Yeah. Likewise, when we're watching content also, right? We want to be engaged fully in that.
Engaged fully, yeah.
You can't bore your readers. There was a very famous line, even in advertising, which I think it was Ogilvy who said, the consumer, like, so when you're writing an ad campaign, the consumer is not a moron. She is your wife. If you think of your wife as an intelligent woman, you can't pull the wool over her eyes. So when you write for that person, you assume there is intellect involved, So likewise, when we're writing our books, we've got to give that, assume that the person knows. You can't bore them. वो पुरानी जो movies होती थी ना, when people gave you lectures and bhashans and you still came away and you still watched, nobody has the patience anymore for it.
Wonderful, ma'am. Wonderful. You all have shared so good experiences of your life, and even this was the last one which Milan ma'am has shared, that really heart touching one. Now, without much delay, I would like to invite the chairperson of the day, Professor G.A. Ghanshyam sir, who is the founder and general secretary of the society, and sir is a professor in Department of English, Higher Education System, Chhattisgarh. So I would like to invite sir to give some remarks here on the session and honor the guest with certificates.
Thank you, Shalini, and good evening and namaste to all of you, those who have been here on the platform of iSPELL. Indeed, it's pretty nice to listen to all the great authors on the platform of iSPELL and spending your Sunday evening, because always people say that one day we get in a week, and that too Sunday. And in Sunday, if you have some kind of a satsang like this, which is not only a feast to the mind and heart, but at the same time, it's a learning experience. And all of you have spoken from your heart, because the writing, it comes from the heart, not from the mind. And when the finger moves, it moves with the help of the words, with the help of the sentences, and whatever you write, that comes out in the form of your own experiences, your own feelings, your own emotions. And when you pen down your feelings and emotions in the form of sentences, and they do reach the readers, and the reader's response, which we call it as reader's response theory, it creates its own world. And the readers, they create their own world with the help of your own world, what you created. And you will find there is a kind of a difference of opinion among the readers also, and they do like some of the things, they do dislike some of the things, and they do argue on various things, whatever we have written. So that has given a greater kind of a dimension, greater kind of an exposure to our own writings. And that's why when we say that moving finger writes, yes, all the times the heart is not only beating to write, but some of the people, those who really take it to the heart and take it to the mind, can write. And writing, as far as Bacon said, reading maketh a full man, conference a ready man, and writing an exact man. So the people, those who write, they become exact. And when they write in an exact way, it means that they have the talent, they have the hidden talent, which comes out in the form of their writings. So all of you have not only made us to enjoy what you want to write and what you want to say and what you have presumed as far as writing is concerned, but at the same time, you have thrown light on what we call cross-cutting issues, the burning topics. And all of you have taken the cross-cutting issues or the burning topics which are there in the society and wherein the society has to do a lot of, I take this as manan. The manan and chintan, both are the most important thing when a writer starts writing, because before writing, the chintan and manan, they are the two important things which goes in. And when the byproduct comes out, it comes out as if your own child, it's there, and you not only care it, nurture it, but at the same time you want to see it, how it's growing and how the people are caring it and how it is going to bloom in a day and how the things are going to see the light of the day. So that makes one very sentimental about the work, very sentimental about what we have written. And all the three, what I call the dignitaries on the dais of iSPELL have made this evening really wonderful, not only to understand what writing is, but also how to pen down our thoughts and how to go about it and how to realize the realities of life and the adversities which we have seen during the COVID time, how to overcome those adversities, because all the skills we have learned, we have not learned one skill, that's known as the skill of adversity. So we need to understand the adversity skill nowadays, and even the doctors were not prepared to understand these adversity skills. And now the society is in a position to understand the adversity skills. And I am sure that some of the universities will be bringing out one certificate course or a diploma course on adversity skills now. So I think this corona has given us various things, not only to understand, but also to expose ourselves and to understand the realities of life. So thank you very much, ma'am, for doing the honors on the platform of iSPELL. Indeed, it's a pleasure and honor to have all of you on the platform of iSPELL, Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature. And it promotes author, it promotes the people, those who are there on the platform of iSPELL, as the motto of iSPELL goes, facilitate to elevate. So we facilitate the people to elevate themselves, let the society of India elevate itself, and the society goes broader and broader day by day. For doing the honors on the platform of iSPELL, this certificate goes to Megha Pant ma'am. I think, is she there?
No, sir, she's not there, but
okay, right. So this certificate goes to Yasmin Saith ma'am, and you have proved yourself as the younger one, because with the way of your writing and with the way of manan, that's what I always say to the youngsters, that manan is very important, and in manan, man is very important. So thank you, ma'am, for doing the honors on the platform of iSPELL. This certificate is a token of gratitude and love from iSPELL. And this certificate goes to Milan Ohra ma'am. It was really nice listening to you, ma'am. And though you are suffering from COVID, but COVID is out of the void now, and you have not only made yourself available to us, but you have really made us to understand one thing, that when the energy is there, nobody can stop you from speaking, and nobody can stop you from making yourself quite fit. So we do express our deep regards to you, and we wish you a speedy and healthy recovery soon, ma'am. And this is a token of gratitude from iSPELL.
Thank you. Thank you.
This certificate goes to Shalini Malik ma'am for doing the honors on the platform of iSPELL, and being a doctor, treating the patients, and being a doctor of literature also. As far as writing is concerned, you are really sailing in two boats, and you are bringing the boats together, and for doing the honors on the platform of iSPELL. Once again, this is a token of love and gratitude to you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Shalini, for making this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the great one, with the help of writers. Really, the real Amrit in the form of literature is listening to the people, understanding the people, and knowing their content, and making ourselves not only a kind of an illuminating soul, but also a kind of a soul which vibrates, because the vibration is very important in life, and without vibration, nothing happens in this life. And next Sunday, again, we have a bestseller author in the form of Himanshu Rai. So those who are on the platform of iSPELL, kindly join us on the next Sunday, again on the platform of iSPELL. Thank you very much. Over to Dr. Shalini.
Thanks, sir. Thanks a lot for your chair remarks and for honoring the guests with certificates. I would like to propose a vote of thanks. I wholeheartedly thank our expert and respected authors, Meghna ma'am, Milan ma'am, who has taken out time for us even after being so not so well, and Yasmin ma'am and Shalini ma'am for taking out time for from their busy schedule to grace the occasion, and for sharing your expertise and experiences as the writers on that how to handle the pressure and how to find the purpose of life, and kind of ikagai thing, and means how one can be a better writer. I further express my profound gratitude towards Professor Ghanshyam sir, founder and general secretary of iSPELL India, for your gracious presence and exclusive remarks, and for making this event possible here. I thank all other executive members of iSPELL for showing their faith and generosity, and for their strengthening presence, whoever is present here today. I acknowledge and thank each and everyone who is present with us, all forum leaders, members, iSPELlians, scholars, and students who became the witness of this event via Zoom or YouTube. I thank Pramod sir for taking all the pains, staying behind the curtain to run the show, and to preserve every event, handling all the technicalities. Now I request everyone who is present here to be here with us in the next show on 28th. Have a very blessed evening ahead. Thank you for your gracious presence again. I would like to thank each and everyone again, especially Yasmin ma'am, Shalini ma'am, and Milan ma'am, and Meghna ma'am also, who couldn't take out much time for us. Now, Pramod sir, can we wind it off?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, sure.